Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Monday, March 24th, 2014. And as typical for a Monday, it's a very heavy news day just because of some things that took place over the weekend. And I have a special guest with me today to comment on some very complex issues but that were brought to our attention over the weekend. But I'm beginning today with this Infowars.com article. Homeland Security exercise targets free Americans against socialist tyranny. And Alex is really pushing this information out this morning. Leaked documents reveal plan to counter online dissent during martial law. And this is very significant information, and as Alex said, if Americans become aware of this, as more and more Americans become aware of these kind of plans, they will realize with certainty that the U.S. government is not currently of the people, by the people, and for the people. I had an exchange over the weekend with Karen Hudis, and there's always this back and forth with a lot of people, a lot of whistleblowers. Are they disinfo? Are they the real deal? And Don is with me this morning to kind of talk about this, and he watched these Keenan videos and has some comments.
Well, it's actually hard to catch the reference to Karen Hughes in the beginning part of this video. It's there in the notes a little bit, but he doesn't go into detail. Earlier in a previous video, I was aware, I think this is maybe a few months ago now, Keenan actually complimented Karen Hughes, but said that outside of her area of expertise, she's not very knowledgeable, but is fine within her area of expertise, which is World Bank stuff. So and then on Karen Hughes' side of that previous communication between the two, Karen was saying that and maybe I heard this elsewhere too, that Neil wasn't operating at a very high level, the kinds of things that he was doing, trying to basically put him down. Now, I did listen to both parts 1 and part 2 of this more recent Neil Keenan video from the 15th of this month, and Neil's hard to understand. He talks quickly and doesn't really speak like he's speaking to the camera, just like he's speaking to the people in the room, and doesn't really contextualize when he's talking about things. So I am actually growing in respect for him as a person that is really not putting on an act, is somebody who is what he says he is, because he doesn't have the typical kind of presence that you would associate with somebody who is trying to well, pull something over on someone or trying to advance an agenda. I think he really is doing something very significant behind the scenes. Now, here's the key difference between him and Karen Hudis right now, and it comes out at I don't know the exact time in the video, but I think it's in this first video, where Neil Keenan says that there's plenty of gold in Indonesia, or it might even be in another video. I'm not sure. I apologize for not having the exact reference, but at some point Neil said there's a lot of gold in the Indonesian area, and Karen is saying that the Vatican has the gold. Now, one of those cannot be true. And recently there was the information that came out about Indonesian President Sukarno's, former President Sukarno's son, signing the new Treasury note dollar bills. And that is stuff that's breaking right now. I am more and more inclined to believe that that's real. And as a result of this conflict about where the gold is, I'm really tending to think that Neil Keenan is on the right side of that one. And that he is correct, I believe, when he is saying that Karen Hughes is a disinformation agent that is jumping out of her area of expertise into another area. Now, we're going to get into something else in the next few stories that has to do with what Karen is doing outside of her area of expertise. And that is, she is very strongly pushing for a constitutional convention, or a ConCon, as patriots have long called it. And in liberty communities over the last couple decades, it's been recognized that ConCon is a very dangerous thing, because it's an opportunity for the Constitution to be completely rewritten. And people, and it's really shocking to me to realize now who is actually now starting to promote a constitutional convention. They are conservative voices that many conservatives respect, including Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, and other people. And Karen Hudes is very strongly promoting a constitutional convention. What does that have to do with the World Bank? Absolutely nothing, really, except for the tie-in of the Federal Reserve. And anybody who studied this knows that the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional in itself and doesn't require a constitutional convention to clearly establish that fact. We just need to get back to what the rule of law says is supposed to happen, and that is that the Congress is supposed to control the money. Well, Congress has been bought off, so it's totally compromised now that they're owned by the external Federal Reserve entities. So it's a difficult spot unless the American people wake up and throw out the people that are loyal to the traitorous Federal Reserve, foreign banking sources. And if we don't do that, and we have something like a constitutional convention, or if we have that, then what is that but an opportunity to do crisis management, problem reaction solution that the globalists always do? We have got a very uneducated public and a very controlled environment where the people don't even know how they would. We're not even close to approaching the level of understanding of the Founding Fathers. And I know Cindy knows more exactly than I can say right now what the actual steps are that would be needed for the ratification of a constitutional convention, and it involves the state legislatures, and they definitely are not entities to be trusted at this point.
Right. It requires 75% of states to ratify a change. But you know, can we count on 25%? I mean, the whole thing is really a moot point, because, as Don said, the big issue is the Federal Reserve, and that was instituted through an act of Congress, and an act of Congress can be repealed. So we don't need a constitutional convention to repeal an act of Congress. It's huge overkill, and I think it's a tremendous risk. And we have our Constitution, we have our Bill of Rights. We don't need a new one. We don't want it changed. I mean, especially don't want the Bill of Rights even touched, even sneezed at.
All we need to do is to say that the Department of the Treasury, which is a cabinet-level position in the Constitution, the original Constitution, is in control of the monetary system. That basically nationalizes the bank, which is what you're supposed to do. Then the money supply is controlled by the people through the executive branch of the government in terms of its implementation, and through the Congress in terms of its having the right to coin money. That means that they actually provide the weights and measures by which the Treasury Department executes the laws concerning money. That is the way that it's supposed to be. We have those laws on the books, in terms of the actual in the Constitution. We just need to begin to throw out anything that doesn't align with that.
Sure, and the presumption with the Constitutional Convention is that the states would support the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. In reality, if the states had a true understanding of the Bill of Rights, they would be using the 10th Amendment to nullify federal law that is unconstitutional. Now, to some extent, states are doing that, but it's probably not, I would be bold and say it's not a large enough portion yet of states that have the understanding and that are moving in that direction.
So, keep in mind, ConCon is bad. Liberty patriots have known it for a long time. We are now at the stage where more people need to understand it. Phyllis Schlafly is an amazing guiding light in this regard, and people need to listen to her.
Absolutely. And I want to skip back to something that we came close, you came close to talking about. Just the idea of being divided between, now this happens to be called Divisions in the World Order, Patterns of Disunity by Fritz Springmeier on Mercy Triumphs. And Fritz wrote here extensively about the Catholic Church. And one of Karen's big pushes is to lay the responsibility for what is happening in the world at the feet of the Vatican. Fritz kind of dispels that. And I want to add, I know Don will have some comments on this, but I just want to say, whether people are intentional disinfo agents or they're simply seeing things from a different point of view, if we allow ourselves to become party to these debates and disputes and become, really passionate and angry with one another, the plans of the enemy have been served in getting us to lose our unity and to have infighting as opposed to addressing the enemies that really need to be addressed. But at the same time, it's important to understand these issues and try to gain some sense in understanding this picture. And I want to throw in here another little caveat. I read a tweet from Roseanne Barr that the Khazars, that they have not been able to genetically link Ashkenazi Jews with Khazars. And again, here's this, there's always this strife, and I think it's really intensified now. Whose feet is the blame for what has been done to the people of the world going to be laid at?
Yeah, and in this column, what Fritz does is he basically takes the people in the that understand conspiracy to task for not really understanding how the Catholic Church was defeated in history in the 19th century. In the 1800s, there were the Catholic Church was really disempowered, largely through the advance of the new middle class and wealth, the new wealth of the United States, and that was. And then even in earlier times, there were periods where he talks about that 2 popes didn't go outside of the Vatican City, that it wasn't safe for them to travel. So, of course, there's been a remake of their power and a changing of the world in which I don't think by any means the Vatican is a paper tiger, that Fritz kind of points that they are. Yeah, to lay the blame for everything at the feet of the Vatican probably is an overstatement, because what's really happened now is we have the new oligarchs in power, the banking powers that grew up around the Vatican and the City of London and the royal families, but then attracted their own set of sociopaths and psychopaths and control freaks, so that really they control the throne, and the throne is whatever they say it is until they're toppled, and of course they are close to being toppled as we speak. So I think Fritz's article here is helping people to see that really the Vatican is not all to blame, just as Ashkenazi Jews or Khazars or whoever are not all to blame. It's not all one group. And Alex Jones really does a great job of pointing this thing out. It's the mindset of the controllers that want to set up a dictatorial, tyrannical, one-world government. That's the enemy. And whoever wants to do that covertly, well, that's the problem. So, yeah, I think that Fritz is doing a good service here in pointing out that that it's not the Vatican, and of course, that is probably, I think, a deliberate strategy directed at people who are really starting to listen to Kieran Hudis, who does lay the blame almost exclusively at the Vatican and the Jesuits. So I don't say that they're guiltless, I just say that it's bigger than that, and I would say that I tend to believe that Neil Keenan, that the gold is not in the Vatican. And the gold is what is needed to set up a new world, and we may be on the verge of actually being able to set up a world that is not run by the global controllers in a tyrannical way.
The big picture is that although there is probably strife in the ranks, if you read Bloodlines of the Illuminati, you see that these people are spread out over many cultural, philosophical spectrum. There's a Chinese family, the Li family, that is one of the bloodlines, and they have different backgrounds, and they all work together. So trying to single out one and place blame in one place can really become a trick of the enemy, and as I stated, a way to bring about division between all of us trying to figure out who's responsible. And I think, you know, if we just begin with the banks and what the banks are doing, and then, you know, maybe pull some threads, but we all are going to have to be as wise as serpents and become educated about sociopaths and psychopaths and how they do try to take over in every forum where they place themselves.
Yeah, we need to realize that it's not that humans are tribal, and tribes tend to blame other tribes. I just got done reading a really great book, The Reign of Gold by Victor Villaseñor. It's been out for a couple decades, but I just recently learned of it, and it has to do with the Mexican heritage in California, and that's, of course, is a timely thing with all that's going on here now, and that push in the propaganda world. But one of the main points of the book is that the leading character learns that hate is the problem, and hate either of your own people or of any other people group is wrong, and we need to recognize vital humanity within wherever you find it, and love for one another, and our traditions are all valid and good if they support life, and that's what we need to get back to. We need to stop the finger pointing, blaming one group. It's this group or it's that group. That just is very, very counterproductive. It's any group that loves and trusts human potential and liberty and wants people to be free and love one another.
Before we move on, I did have one more practical link here pertaining to the idea of a constitutional convention. Sometimes a council of governors is referred to in a discussion of the pending constitutional convention. A friend sent me this information and, asks, is this the Council of Governors? that is referred to when people talk about a constitutional convention. If so, it could only be disastrous, because this council of 10 governors corresponds to the FEMA regions, and again, this would just be disastrous. And if you want to learn more about the dangers of a constitutional convention, I just did this search on Startpage, Phyllis, Schlafly, Constitutional Convention, and there is a wealth of information here. So just for a reference.
Right, and again, we're at a key juncture here. This is no time to get sidetracked and to ignore those that have gone before us in advancing the cause of liberty and understanding about the foundation of liberty in America. And Phyllis Schlafly is a great resource there. And constitutional conventions are not only very dangerous, but as Cindy has been saying, they're completely unnecessary. All we really need to do is to understand and implement the Constitution that we've already got.
And moving on, Infowars.com, Big Brother censoring free speech on YouTube. You probably heard this Mark Dice drama over the weekend, that two of his YouTube channels were shut down, and I saw a tweet from him late yesterday that his YouTube channels have been restored. So happy ending there, but very crucial that we do protest loudly when something like this happens.
If you've downloaded any of Mark Dice's videos on your YouTube channel and have them on your computer, please upload them to your YouTube channel. What's happening here is there is something new has been implemented, very draconian censorship by YouTube. Something about 200 federally appointed censors now oversee YouTube's implementation of their guidelines, something like that.
There's like I think they're called super flaggers or something like that. And they can flag up to 200 videos a day or something like that. It's just, yeah, it makes it easier for people who are threatened by liberty preachers to get YouTube channels shut down. This was a really interesting tweet yesterday. It really caught my eye. Zero Hedge doesn't just throw things around. They usually have things very well vetted. They had this tweet yesterday. Hong Kong says Malaysian airline plane makes unscheduled stop to unload gold. And they don't have a link, and I searched for a link. Now, this was not the Malaysian flight that's missing. This was a different flight, but this was the YouTube video that I believe their tweet is probably based on. And most people, you know, that have been following this feel like there's some kind of shenanigans going on here.
Yeah, it's even possible that there's a link between those two stories. It might, I mean, this is spy versus spy, and the bad guys obviously have some idea what the good guys are up to in terms of moving gold around. So it's very possible that there was a fake moving of gold or something that was going on with the first airliner that is what was actually accomplished with the second airliner. It's all virtually impossible to sort out, but when we have these two things that have to do with Malaysian airliners going on that with not very plausible explanations, I think that something is really going on behind the scenes, and all I'm saying is just be on the alert, because we're living in pivotal times.
Absolutely. And this is a little pet subject of mine because of Netflix. And just yesterday, I was just kind of scanning through, surfing Netflix a little bit, and it affirmed for me I don't know if maybe commitment is too strong of a word, but they provide such a great selection. And I happened to see, as I was surfing Netflix yesterday, Loose Change, the 9/11 video, 2 different Gerson videos about natural cancer cures. Netflix seems to me to be so open to some of the ideas that we are enthusiastic about. And so this Wall Street Journal, Apple in talks with Comcast about streaming TV service. So they're going to find a way. Now, to me, this is antitrust on the part of Comcast, because Comcast is known to throttle Netflix, and they are going to have a offer a service in direct competition with Netflix, and isn't that antitrust?
Absolutely. There, I would think, would be violating some kind of a charter to provide service equitably when they're engaging in throttling their competition. At the same time, they're partnering with another entity to provide the same service. Really bad stuff.
I happened to hear a Comcast commercial yesterday, and the Comcast commercial said, lightning fast speeds for every application, or something along those lines. That is completely false advertising. They're known to throttle Netflix, and as I said, I'm passionate about this. Don't mess with my Netflix.
Yeah, it really is against net neutrality, and that's where the battle is. They're trying to throttle content, and that is what they're not supposed to do.
So we will move on. If any of you listening there are attorneys and you want to start a big civil suit against Comcast, I'm on board. From Yahoo News, Guinea scrambles to contain deadly Ebola outbreak. This article says that 59 people have now died in an outbreak of the virulent virus raging through Guinea's southern forests. And there are people dying of some other hemorrhagic fever as well. Now, I don't know if this has strong implications for us in the U.S. We certainly are advised, I would think, to pray for these people and cry out for mercy. And for the world, really, and just to be prepared with your own, weapons, whatever, colloidal silver, garlic, grapefruit seed extract, and just have a strategy for resisting viruses. From IntelliHub, this was mildly disappointing. I'm not sure I expected anything to come of this. Obama eligibility finally ruled on by Alabama Supreme Court, no opinion. And this was one of the cases that people were kind of hoping might decide in a way that would make Obama ineligible, deem Obama ineligible, and it's not going to happen that way. So, and how can a court have no opinion? They virtually ruled not to rule, according to IntelliHub. So, kind of disappointing. From Zero Hedge, how and why JP Morgan and COMEX should be sued for precious metals manipulation. And I think most of us would be in agreement on that. I'm hoping that people don't have too much of a problem with this. I wanted to include this video, Carl Boudreau, Astrology, April 2014. I think, considering the stars, let's face it, there are Bible verses that say things like, night to night show the glory of God, and the 3 wise men were astrologers who knew about Jesus from studying the stars. So to just completely rule that possibility out, that God does indicate in the stars that these, He has set the heavens in motion. And this was kind of an encouraging video this month. New paradigm. And I think that most of us are aware, even just looking inward and sensing what's going on around us, that there is a shift that people are becoming more aware of how we have been manipulated and controlled by tyrants. And people are less willing for that to continue. You know, it's kind of ironic. If they would have been kinder and gentler, and as Max Kaiser talked about, the capitalism being virtuous or vicious, if they would have remained virtuous and not turned vicious on us, maybe they would have been able to continue to get away with controlling and, you know, all the world, all the world's people, all the world's resources. But because they've been vicious, we're waking up and people are saying, oh no, you didn't. So I think that's a very positive thing, and if you need some encouragement along those lines, you might find it here. And for some good news for the day, especially in light of what the Alabama Supreme Court ruled, this is encouraging. Doesn't have anything to do with Obama's presidency, but at least not directly. Idaho governor signs emergency legislation nullifying all future federal gun laws. So congratulations to Idaho, kudos, and this governor is a brave man, and may many, many other governors and states follow them. And look at this, he has on a sovereign tie. You can look that up if you don't know what that is. The stripes going this way mean that you are a sovereign, and indeed he is. So thank you, Idaho Governor, for taking a stand for some of the American people. Thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and hey, enforce the Bill of Rights. Insist on liberty.